so the New Zealand 2020 election is just days away, so I thought I would drop a totally correct and not at all random prediction on what I think the outcome will be. So like most people, I'm expecting the outcome to favour Labour, and we'll end up with Jacinda Ardern to be our Prime Minister for her second term. The polls are repeatedly showing Labour pushing 50% of the party vote, but I think they'll dip slightly, and they won't reach a threshold to govern alone. My guess is 47% of the party vote will go to Labour. This will be followed by National, with National having probably their weakest showing since 2002. I don't think they'll get as low as their abysmal 2002 numbers though, but I think they get 33% of the party vote this election. Third place will go to David Seymour's ACT Party. They are kind of crushing in the polls for a third party, and will finish in a solid third place, with 8% of the party vote I reckon. This party could fluctuate a bit, I could even put it in the realm of possibility that they hit 10%, but 8 is my prediction. I am confident that the Greens will hold on to all their seats in Parliament, and I predict a 6% showing. They do repeatedly poll below 5%, so they could possibly dip below that threshold, but what the polls don't show is voters casting overseas ballots, which tend to benefit the Greens. But that factor might be a bit bullshit, because so many Kiwis have returned home since COVID, and I'm not 100% sure if there's actually many Kiwis out of the country that actually vote. These are the extent of the parties that I think will get into Parliament, so let's look at some of the wasted votes. I think New Zealand First will come in 5th place in the party vote. They've absolutely crashed in popularity, and I don't see them recovering. I see them picking up 2% of the party vote. I also wouldn't be surprised if we got the news of Winston Peters' retirement on election night. 6th place will go to the Top Party. I think they'll grab 2% of the vote. The best case scenario for Top really would be to come in 5th place and overtake New Zealand First. If they were somehow able to crack 3%, I think we'll be talking about them for the next election as a strong contender for the Parliament of 2023. They actually might just be a possible centrist party in the future to replace New Zealand First, as that party is probably never going to get back into Parliament. This centrist position in Parliament has been held by parties like United Future in the past. The main thing is Top should really look into getting an electorate seat. That would probably be their best bet in the future, but we'll see. They are running in a few this election, but I don't think they'll win any. So my guess is 2% for Top. I also see the New Conservative Party hitting 1%. I think right now, right-wing voters are looking for an alternative to National, and social conservatives probably can't stomach ACT's libertarian views, so they'll probably find a home in the New Conservatives. I don't think they'll get any more than 1% though, as ACT and National are really doing big campaigns to try to push right-wing voters to them and away from New Conservatives. No other parties will crack 1%, I believe. The Advance Party keeps polling around 1%, but I doubt people will actually get out and vote for them in any respectable margins. I'll also talk about a few notable electorate seats that I think could be up for grabs this election. I'm going to pick the dark horse and guess that Chloe Swarbrick is going to win Auckland Central. I think the other two candidates are more likely, but I'll gamble a bit and guess the Greens win that seat. National will hold on to Northland. The seat could possibly be won by New Zealand First Shane Jones, who is running in the seat, but he won't win it. I bet he actually comes in 3rd place behind the Labour candidate as well. ACT will win Epsom, obviously, not a real surprise there. This will be the first election in a long time that ACT doesn't actually need to win Epsom to stay in Parliament, as they're polling above the 5% threshold to get seats based on their party vote. I don't think any other seats are worth discussing. I think the Labour Party will hold on to all of the Maori seats, even though I think the Maori Party will have a pretty good showing in those seats, and might actually give Labour a run for their money. I think in 2023 you can see the Maori Party flip one or more of these seats, as they're rehabilitating their image as signifying that they are more of a liberal party now, and trying to fix their image from when they had a coalition with National a few elections ago. I think we'll see a handful of National held electorate seats flip to Labour, as Labour is just so popular at the moment, but I'm not 100% sure which ones, and I don't really think it matters, as MMP will really just hand out list MPs to make up for the lost electorates. I was actually listening to Peter Dunne talk the other day, and he mentioned the possibility of National getting so low in the popular vote that they could get overhang seats.
There's another scenario here too, which Heather's just mentioned, the overhang. It is possible on these results that National could have a 2 or 3 seat overhang if it holds the bulk of its constituency seats. And that again will just make it a wee bit harder for Labour to get there by itself.
An overhang seat is when a party has more electorate seats than their party vote would actually give them, meaning that they have too many seats in Parliament than they should actually have. This would mean that they keep all their electorate seats that they won, and it is added to the total number of seats in Parliament. So for example, if they won 40 electorate seats, but they only won enough of the party vote to get 38 seats, there would actually be 122 seats in Parliament instead of the usual 120, as they'll need to make room for the extra 2 seats that National holds. This is a crazy concept, and I don't think it would actually happen, but I think it's interesting and I thought I would mention it. If this were to happen, it would be a lot harder for Labour to govern alone, and they would definitely have to go into a coalition with the Greens if they want to form the government. I also think both referendums will pass as well. To throw a guess on what the proportions will be yes or no, I think on the End of Life bill, which would legalise euthanasia, we will see a 68% yes and a 32% no. And for the marijuana legalization referendum, I think it will pass with a close margin, with 53% yes and 47% no. These are random guesses to be honest, but I think they'll both pass, but with euthanasia passing a lot more easily than the weed referendum, which is a bit up in the air and might be a tight vote. With the percentages I've estimated, it would end up with Labour holding something like 60 seats, so close to governing alone. but not quite. They would probably form a coalition with the Greens pretty quickly after the election day. I'd probably do a video after the election discussing the outcome and my predictions for the cabinet ministers and policy that the Greens might push into a coalition agreement with Labour. I was actually thinking about doing a live stream on election night, 6 PM New Zealand time, on this channel, going over the coverage of the election, answering any questions you might have, talking some shit about policy and the parties. Come and join me. Let me know in the comments if you want to watch this, and talk some shit with me while Labour gets elected. I guess it'll only be fair to explain how I voted, as I voted early last weekend. I wasted my party vote and voted for Top. I think it's a long-term vote to try to get them into viability and to be considered a legitimate party in 2023. This year they weren't even included in the multi-party debates, which is kinda crazy. I live in Auckland Central and I voted for Chloe Swarbrick. I don't agree with the Greens on all of their policies, but I think they have an important place in Parliament, and I want to keep them in power if they don't get above that 5% threshold, even though I think they'll get 6% anyway. I also voted yes on both referendums, because, you know, I believe in freedom for adults to do what the fuck they want to do with their body, come on. So my estimates are Labour with 47%, National with 33%, ACT with 8%, Greens with 6%, New Zealand First with 2%, Top with 2%, Conservatives with 1%, and then we've got Auckland Central going to the Greens, Northland going to National, Epsom going to ACT, all the Maori seats going to Labour, and then yes for both referendums. Leave your estimates of what you think in the comments, and the person who gets it the most right, I'll chuck them $50. Get it 100% correct and I'll chuck you $100, why not? Just make sure you like and subscribe if you want to win the cash. Just round it to the nearest percent, I guess, for all parties above 1%. Also, make sure you vote, get your voice heard. You can enroll on site if you're not enrolled yet, just get out there, it's easy.